Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. Guys, it has been quite a week for me. And if you listened to last week's episode, or if you haven't listened to last week's episode, that was only the beginning of a series of crazy things that has happened over the last week. And I always like to share this, and I know I'm just diving right into the deep end here because I really truly believe that when feel like we're being tested, or we feel like we're hitting a rock bottom, or we feel like everything is working against us, the universe has your back, your spirit guides have your back, the divine has your back, and you're being guided and you're being led. And so I am just sitting in this place this week, this place of complete surrender, because it's literally been every single day this week. A new thing has popped up. A different family member has gotten sick or injured within my immediate family. Every day, either I've gotten hurt, my husband, one of my kids, someone's gotten sick. Both the kids got sick several times in different ways this week. And if you listen to last week's episode, my eldest son got the stitches in his forehead, and that was just the beginning. And the dog even got sick. There's been so much and silly things like cars breaking down and air conditioning breaking down, and it feels like everything is sort of falling apart, and it feels very random. And it's happening a lot this week, and I am not blind to the fact that it's happening all at once. And there's definitely a reason that I'm unaware of. And I'm just taking a lot of time this week to sit back and just watch. And of course, we have to take everything in stride and get through our day as needed. And I definitely shared some messages that I learned from having my son be injured last week, but clearly there are more messages and more lessons and more awakenings that are needing to happen. And I'm just trying to get to a place of quiet this week and really, really ground down into myself and really see, what is it that I'm missing here? Am I out of alignment? Is there an up level that's happening? Because not only have I been experiencing a lot of these hiccups, if you will, along the road this week, it really does feel like a lot of little, just like inconveniences, a lot of hiccups, a lot of things breaking down, people getting sick, plans going awry, if you will. And it feels so opposite to what I had channeled for the June energy forecast. The June energy forecast really felt like the theme was authenticity. And then it sort of struck me as I was walking the dog earlier today that if there was something that was out of alignment, that it was going to fall away because I needed to step into my authenticity. And so perhaps there's some changes on the horizon, and perhaps there are ways in which I've been showing up in my life that have been aligned for a time but are no longer. And maybe there's a need to pivot. And perhaps there are things that have been sitting beneath the surface, wanting to come to the surface, wanting to bubble up, wanting to present themselves, that I have ignored for a very long time. Parts of my soul, parts of myself that I had put on pause for a long time. And so I am really, really spending a lot of time this week trying to get quiet and trying to pay attention to, what is it that I'm missing here? And I don't even know if it's missing, but what is it that's wanting to come in or wanting to come out from inside of me? And this conversation that I have with our guest today was just exactly what I needed for the lesson or this phase of life that I'm currently walking through, sorry. And this guest, her name is Rhiannon Hines, and she is just so magical, guys. So for those of you who don't know who she is, Rhiannon is the founder of Intuitive Rebirth. She's a best-selling author of two books. One is called The Intuitive Rebirth, and the other is The Keeper of the Light Codes. She's an intuitive channel. She's a healer. And her whole mission is to empower healers and seekers to unlock their miraculous power by facing the darkness that they've spent their lifetimes avoiding. And this conversation that I had with Rhiannon was so expansive. And she really exemplifies, she is the epitome of somebody who really lives by her intuition. Somebody who, even if the nudges don't make sense, even if the next step has no promises of success, she's so willing to dive into her life with faith, complete unbridled faith that it will work out in what's best for her. And she's been so inspiring for me. It was so timely that I would have the conversation with her in a week that I've been quite literally questioning everything. And so, just so many aha moments in this conversation, so many light bulb moments for me, and just such a beautiful human and a beautiful soul. So, I'm so excited to bring her to you guys. And she's so generous. She is, for any of you who are listening, if you want to dive more into what Rhiannon has to offer, and I really, really highly recommend that you do. She has this beautiful course called The Intuitive Rebirth. And she mentions this, you can use the code community on her website and get 10% off her course if you feel like diving into that. So definitely go and check out her stuff. All the links will be in the show notes. And definitely go and have a look at that. But guys, I'm telling you, this conversation just lit me up from the inside out, and I'm still on a high. We had our conversation a day or two ago, and I'm just recording this intro a little bit after the fact. And I'm still just like thinking about everything that she shared. So I know that if it was that inspiring and powerful for me, it's definitely going to be the same for you guys. So I'm interested to hear what you think. I'm so excited to bring her forward. And I really hope it will not be the last time. There's so many other things that I wanted to dive into with her. She's such a true channel. She definitely knows things about light language, and we're going to have her back on the show another time, because this was only kind of the tip of the iceberg of all of the knowledge and wisdom that she has to share. So I'm so excited to introduce her to you. And the last thing I do want to say is there's going to be some pivots coming up for me and some big things kind of bubbling through the surface. And so stay tuned. I'm going to be bringing those forward. If you're not already on my email list, make sure that you head over to my website, jessicarachel.co, and subscribe to my email list. I'm definitely going to be dishing it out in more detail through my email and sending you some updates of what's going on. And of course, it'll be eventually aired on the podcast as well, but definitely head over there. If you want to do it the fun way, you can also take the Which Claire Are You quiz. That'll get you on the list too. And then you can also find out which Claire you are in your channeling journey. Otherwise, there's a form on there as well that you can just sign up and join the mailing list. Definitely get on there, and I will share with you the updates as they come through. Right now, they're just coming through, and until they've fully been embodied and understood, there's nothing new just yet, but definitely things are bubbling to the surface, and I'm pivoting in a different way. And so I'm excited to bring that to you. It's definitely a to be continued conversation. But in the meantime, I'm so excited for you to have this perspective, to have this beautiful human and hear all of the wisdom she has to share with you. And so, without further ado, I can't wait to introduce to you the beautiful, the magical Rhiannon. Welcome, Rhiannon, to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I am so incredibly excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah. And you have such an incredible story, and you do so many incredible things. And before we dive into all of that juicy goodness, I would really love for you to answer this question, which is, what does intuition mean for you?
Oh, wow. So that question for me is it's a really deep one because intuition is how I live my entire life. My entire reality is built upon my deep trust in my knowing. And obviously, I have a business or I have work that flows through me that's built upon intuition. You know, the books that I've written are channeled, the energy work programs that I teach, they're all built upon intuition. But that's not where intuition speaks most loudly to me in my life. It's actually just in my decision making process and in the trust that I have in the unfolding of the miracle and the mystery of this existence. So, intuition for me is just like a way of following the highest possible timeline for this existence and just allowing my body to lead the way. And intuition is like my compass for my most divine existence, where I get to serve others to my fullest capacity, where I get to experience abundance and joy to my fullest capacity, love with my family and my connections. It's like it's all the one, and it's all come into my field from trusting my body and my intuition.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I truly wish that everybody gets a chance to live that way. I think that that's how we should all be leading our lives. And it's so beautiful how eagerly you embody that. And I can't wait to dive into how you teach others how to do that as well, which is so beautiful. So, just for those of my listeners who don't know who you are, I would love for you to just share a little bit about who you are and what you do now. And then we'll kind of backtrack a little bit as to how you even got here. So, if you could just share a little bit about what you do and who you serve and yeah, what you're up to these days, what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so who I am is I'm not sure because it's ever unfolding day to day. But I love finding who I am and then forgetting who I am and then having no idea who I am. But what I get to do from that place is whatever I'm guided to do. So it means building courses and offerings and businesses that are so true to my heart, and then in a moment just letting them all go because that's true to my heart as well. So in this moment, what I'm in is that I teach an energy work program called Intuitive Rebirth. And what this program is, it's a way, it's like a coding and activation for space holders, for healers, like breathwork practitioners, whatever you are, to get that missing piece where things stop being clunky, where you stop doing what you're told by another person and you just listen to the whispers within that show you how to serve. And so this work is very, very deep. It's very shamanic. It's very intuitive. And it's all birthed from the way that I had always served as a healer. So I teach this program, Intuitive Rebirth. And I've also written a couple of books that weave through timelines, and they still feel very true to me now.
That's amazing. Wow. It's so incredible. And I definitely admire that you've written a few books. That's really such a feat. So that's so amazing. And your program just sounds just incredibly healing. I think it's so needed right now, especially at this time in the human timeline. And I think more and more people are really waking up to the fact that healing is way more than just a physical endeavor. And right? We have to really go through the mind, body, and soul, and your intuition can guide you through that. And it's so amazing. But before we dive into sort of all of that, I would love for you to share how you got here because you have an incredible healing journey yourself. If you could even dial back to before that, sort of what your background was, sort of how were you raised? Was this something that was sort of always encouraged within you? Were you always someone who knew about intuitive healing and energy work? And then what brought you to kind of doing this beautiful work now?
Yeah, so my life is not particularly extraordinary, and yet it's like full of miracles. So I've got for anyone that's Australian, they'll think I don't sound Australian. For anyone that's English, they'll think I don't sound English. So I grew up in London, but then when I was 8, my family moved to Australia. So I've got a hybrid accent. And I have a beautiful, beautiful family, like a really solid, amazing mom and dad, and a very loving base, a very loving base. And I wouldn't have said that I saw myself as someone who was particularly psychic or special or intuitive when I was a child or even a teenager. And yet I was, just as we all are, just as we all are. And looking back, I remember that I had a very lucid perception of like this idea of Rhiannon. I remember like as a child or as a teenager having kind of moments where I'd be like, who is Rhiannon? And I would have these kind of weird, kind of out of body moments where I would be like, where am I? And that used to happen a lot as a child and a teenager. And then I had to go on a process of forgetting myself. And particularly from the ages of 18 and 23, like really forgetting myself, like really forgetting myself. And what I mean by that is I just long to escape because I built a life based upon what the system wanted from me from a really young age. I was super academic. So when I left school, I did accounting. Um, but that didn't last long. But then I got a fiance and we bought a house and I was just trying to do all the things, and I remember at like age 22, no longer in accounting by any stretch, but I had a more enjoyable job then, which was in remedial massage, kind of like physical body work. And I actually was a lecturer in that at age 22. So I managed to get this job, which was crazy at age 22. But I remember having that job, which was like a little beacon of light in my life, but then having a fiance and a mortgage and uh, like a really kind of societally normal life. And I remember feeling like there must be more because I've ticked all the boxes now. My job is better. Tick. I've got a fiance. We're nearly married. Tick. We've got a house. Tick. The last thing is to have a baby. Then I'm done. And like the thought of that would send me into like an anxious spiral. And I was in so much pain there that I just wanted to escape, like to escape my life. And I did that on the dance floor. Like I did that in nightclubs and I did that by doing a lot of drugs that felt really euphoric and took me so out of body so I could feel free. I wanted to feel free. And the beautiful thing about my life is it's like anytime there's been misalignment, it's felt like the divine has rearranged it for me, and I've had no choice but to let it all shatter. So at that time, it's like a karmic relationship was sent into my field to disrupt everything, So my relationship with my fiance blew up, and I just let this karmic relationship come into my field and blow up everything because it had to. And in that process, I was blown up. I was blown up into shame, guilt, despair. I was free from the shackles of like the life that felt like a prison, but I was with my own pain. And it was this time in my life, like 23, mostly triggered by the shame and guilt of how I betrayed my fiance. That's when I had like my dark night of the soul at age 23. And I just started to heal and I started to learn how to feel my body. And I started to find freedom in a different way. I started to find freedom at like ecstatic dance. I started to find freedom in like true embodied laughter, in knowing that the world was like open and anything was possible. And I remember at that age, like 23, 24, I felt like a butterfly who had just like got wings. And there was a lot of dysfunction in my life, but I felt like a butterfly. And that was the beginning of everything just flowing, flowing. And it started with this massive destruction and chaos.
Isn't that all?
So, so what was that?
I said, isn't that always the way?
Absolutely. And it's like we have to feel the chaos and the destruction to just break us free from the shackles that we don't even know are there. It's like the shackles are so tight and we're numb to them that it's like a bomb needs to blow up our life so we can feel again. And yeah, from there, it's just been a series of miracles, a series of miracles. I was guided to be a yoga teacher. Then I opened a yoga studio. Then I met my husband in a yoga studio in Bali, and then 5 weeks later I was pregnant, and I was guided to sell the studios and do this and do that, and it was just like constant messages of like dive this way and then another message of let it all go. And over and over I've done this, and it's this practice that has made me an intuitive beyond all else. And then as I've learned to listen and my life has bloomed and become so divine, I'm like, wow, I'm also really psychic now as well. It's like, what's happened externally has happened internally. And then the journey that I've been on the last few years, I guess since the world went into its own chaos and disruption, it's been just like rapid acceleration in my life. And I'm sure so many people can relate to this because all the shackles that were unseen have been blown apart. And now, yeah, I'm living in a place called Margaret River, which is Western Australia. It's a beautiful, like, seaside surfing winery region. And we've got two kids, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, with the beautiful man I met at the yoga studio in Bali. And yeah, our life is flow and it's beautiful and it's service and it feels like joy.
Oh, that is such an incredible story, and there's so much to unpack here. There's so much I want to double click on because first of all, as you said, like you expressed it so beautifully, but I think that many people have this moment in their life where they kind of, as you said, kind of tick off all the boxes and then look at their life and kind of go, how did I get here? And they almost feel as if they painted themselves into a corner and they don't know how to get out. And, and then it's sort of this question of, who am I? Am I the person that everybody told me I need to be and what society told me to be? But is this what I want to be and who am I? And I think for a lot of people, and including myself, that sort of then becomes the catalyst for self-discovery, if you will, and truly discover and truly figuring out your identity. And there's something to just be said about that, that it does sort of need to be blown apart and maybe not always in a really radical way. I think depending on how long you ignore your truth, the bigger the blow up needs to be. And I like to say very much so on this podcast that I mean there are things working in the background, right? Like your spirit guides are giving those little nods and little whispers. And I would love to ask you sort of before everything did implode, self implode, as you said, would you say that there were little nudges, little whispers, little clues, and circumstances that were lending you to believe maybe this isn't right, but you were maybe ignoring them?
Absolutely. But ignoring is not even the word. It was completely oblivious to my body screaming at me because we are so programmed in this reality to believe a level of sadness or pain or despair within our own life. We're programmed to believe that that's normal. We're programmed to believe that's normal. So on the weekend, we go let it all go. We go get drunk or go. That's the program, right? People do that for decades. You see 18-year-olds doing this at the nightclub, and then you see 60-year-olds doing it somewhere else in a different context. People do it their whole life, having pain, the pain of misalignment, screaming at them all week, and then just doing whatever they can to put a band-aid on so that they can move into the next week. So yeah, like my body was screaming at me, like, you are unhappy, Rhiannon. But I couldn't hear because I was just like, well, this is just life. This is just life. And my mum and dad have had a huge awakening and like really transformed themselves. So anything that I share now about things they used to say is kind of a reflection of a different set of parents to what I have right now. But I remember, like, days that I didn't want to go to school. Well, that's just life, Rhiannon. That's just life.
Mm.
And I'll be like, okay, this is just life. And it's like, that's actually not just life. That's a whole matrix. That's a whole program that we've been pushed into believing is normal. So we accept the pain. So we accept the misalignment. And I think what breaks you free to be able to step one, feel maybe this misalignment isn't normal. Step one is when we start to ask questions and we don't know who we're asking them to or where the answer is going to come from. But when we get to a point of desperation and we're sort of just like, is there more to life? When you ask a question, even if it seems like you're asking no one, there is a divine force, a fabric of intelligence that's orchestrating a perfect existence that is listening. And when you ask a question like that, it's like that fabric of intelligence reaches in to the matrix that you're trapped in and says, yes, there is another way, like, come with me. And if you ask those questions, then you can just surrender and let go because you're going to be pulled by that incredible wisdom and intelligence into a whole new way of being where it's all taken care of and all we need to do is let go.
That's amazing. And so I'm also curious because one other thing that you've said, and you've now even touched on it a few times, is that something's answering. And
Yeah.
you're saying that over time, as you learn to trust yourself and as you learn to trust your intuition, that it got clearer and clearer that maybe you do have psychic abilities, but more importantly, what your next step is, what the next decision is. And I'm curious what that looks like for you in terms of the process of maybe coming to a crossroads and needing to make a choice or make a decision. How do you tap in and tune in and start to recognize those nudges, those urges, that connection to the divine?
Yeah, well, I'm sure if you ask anyone you've asked on this beautiful podcast would answer with the same thing, which is step one, you've got to release your mind. And the funny thing about it is when we are confused, it's like the mind goes into overdrive to try and figure it all out, which causes a lot of chaos and pain. Like it can make us sick. So when I'm at a crossroads, when it's like, do I go this way or this way? A prime example being when I met my husband in Bali, I was actually still in a relationship with that karmic guy. A beautiful man who had his own beautiful qualities, but not my soulmate. And I was in a relationship with him when I met Scott. And I was like, whoa, something's happening here. But I'd only just met Scott like a few days before, and I had to make this decision whether or not to leave my boyfriend, who just asked my dad to propose, by the way.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
so the plot thickens.
Yeah, it's a pretty serious relationship.
Yeah, like it went hard and fast, and I learned a lot. But I was in this moment where it was like, okay, here's a moment where I walk away from something that is good to something that might not be better because I don't really know this guy. Or I stay with what's good and let go of this possibility. And it's like how I found that was to know that nothing is going to be answered from my mind. So all the chaos of me trying to figure it out is going to get me nowhere. So rather than trying to even find an answer, whether it's like, a yes or a no or a vision, I don't even try to do that if there's a big decision to make. I just allow myself to be in the nothingness. And I find that nothingness within my body by like feeling a deep inner space within my chest, within my heart, a deep, infinite, like portal within my heart of spaciousness, and taking my breath in there. And taking my breath in there and my awareness in there so deeply that it's like all sense of my body starts to dissolve and I become my infinite self. And then I just say, show me, show me where to go, show me which way. And then from my body, action kind of arises. Action arises. Or I start to feel with more certainty the contraction of misalignment. So in that moment, I feel the potential of going back to the old boyfriend, and actually it almost feels nauseating. It's like the contraction is so misaligned, it feels nauseating. So when we remove the mind, it's really just within the body. Does that feel more expansive? What makes my body feel more expansive? And I can find answers in a very different way where I can ask and get a whole series of messages come through, which is how I wrote my books. But when I'm making life-changing decisions, I find that the most simple way is what feels more expansive. Because we want all the messages and information to sort of blanket and nurture and comfort our fears to make the change. But when it's just that way is more expansive, then we're asked to leap with courage into the unknown without all the insights into how it's going to unfold. So that is what I've always done. And when I follow the expansive path and leap into the unknown, an unseen miracle always presents itself. A plot twist that I never see coming, that is so divine. And that is why I can't channel all the why and all the reasons, because I'm not meant to know. It's learning to trust the mystery.
Oh, so beautiful. I could listen to you talk all day long.
It's
So
so beautiful.
beautiful. And I'm like sitting on the edge of my seat with every word. You're just so gorgeous in your essence and your beauty. You really are someone who just does truly embody what it means to sit in the most divine version of yourself, the most aligned version of yourself. And it comes through in every word that comes out of you. So it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. You've given me like goosebumps all over my body. That's the ultimate compliment. Thank you, Mila.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom. And this is something that I really want to say that I am only just starting to step into a little bit. This idea of having these nudges, these things that feel more expansive, but they feel like there's no rhyme or reason to why you're being compelled to do so. And it can be really hard to sit in that place where you almost feel like you have to take a leap of faith. You have no idea what could be on the other side of this thing you're feeling compelled to do. And it can feel scary to leave what's known to jump into an unknown. And especially, I know when I do this with my business, it can feel terrifying, right? Well, this is the thing that was giving me income and it was secure and it was tidy and, it's steady and it worked. And I'm feeling compelled to do something radically different. And that can feel terrifying for a lot of people, right? And I know I see this a lot in this audience, right? There's a lot of people who kind of are in this crossroads, right? They feel compelled to leave their safe, comfortable job, their corporate job usually, and do something maybe in the entrepreneurial field. And they feel it so strong and they feel expansive when they lean into that. And I love that you said that because I agree, your body really always knows. I think there's the intelligence is there beyond maybe our monkey mind, as some might say. And but it can be really scary to not to and also difficult, if you will, to not let that chatter come back in and stop you. And so I'm curious, as somebody who now is taking a lot of leaps and bounds, do you still feel that fear? Do you still leap into the unknown regardless of the fear? And how do you, I guess, for lack of a better word, soothe yourself and still move forward, even though there's no certainty of what you're jumping into?
Yes, I feel fear all the, Yes, like we never fully transcend fear because fear is just showing us, how we can open to more love and trust. And there is always an opportunity to open into more love and trust. And I'm actually like in a period right now of massive trust and surrender because like like you said with your business, you get asked to do these changes or these leaps and intuitive rebirth as this beautiful, like soul aligned offering that just flows from the depths of my heart. It's been my entire life for 3 years, 4 years. And we've done retreats. Like last year, we did 5 retreats in Bali, it's practitioner training after practitioner training. And it's been like our bread and butter as a family. And I'm doing a live online course at the moment, a live online program. And I know that after this one, I'm just gonna have my evergreen kind of my pre-recorded one. And I don't know what I'm gonna do live next. I don't know if it's gonna be intuitive rebirth. I don't know what it is. And I booked a retreat in Thailand and then I canceled it because I was like, it doesn't feel right. I'm doing that from the program of booking retreat after retreat, not from truth. So I canceled it. And so now this is the first time in many, many years that I have nothing planned. I have nothing planned. And when I go into my body, it's like, how do I serve? And it's like, just be. And haven't got that message from ever, what do I do next? Nothing. And this is my greatest fear because taking leaps of faith and stepping into courage is something that has started to come easy to me. I actually enjoy the thrill of it because I know massive expansion exists on the other side. And now I'm in the ultimate test, which is, can I trust so deeply in my path and in the divine that I can just be, knowing that whatever needs to unfold will unfold. And so that brings up fear. Surely I need to create something or do something, to generate more money, or surely I need to do something. And then from that fear, I go to act, book a retreat, or create a new offering. And it's like, well, what does love want to do right now? Love just wants to paint. Love just wants to sit in the garden. Love just wants to hang out with my kids. And I'm learning to deepen my trust to a whole new level because it's trust that even when I do nothing, I receive abundantly. I'm rewarded abundantly. And I'm not always guided to do nothing. This is the first time in my life. But what I'm saying is the greatest quality or energy that we can cultivate in our life is trust in the mystery. Because the mystery and the miracles that are within it are beyond anything that you can push for, strive for, or plan for. So as this fear arises, the fear to take a leap, the fear to do nothing, whatever you're being guided to do, as this fear arises, we don't need to push it down. We don't need to try and get rid of it. We can just allow this fear to be and just feel the fear. This is the part of me that doesn't trust the miracle. And by feeling the fear and allowing it to be so, what we're actually doing is loving it. Just allowing the fear to be so and recognizing the fear. And that act of love, by just allowing, is actually the medicine that transmutes the fear. Love transmutes all fear. So by just allowing the fear to be so, we expand. And we expand into greater trust of the mystery and all the greatest things that you can receive in your life, whether it comes from relationship, money, business, houses, land or whatever it is that you want, all of the greatest miracles, they only happen for a state of surrender, trust. When we try and control, we misalign to the miracles. So all there is for us to do is just lean into where feels expansive, take that leap, feel the fear, recognize the fear. This is the part of me that's terrified, doesn't trust the miracle. Feel that fear like a beautiful child and breathe into it. And in that, notice how that fear transforms and you're more aligned with the divine mystery.
Oh, so beautiful. I love it. And I'm taking that advice for myself. It's so gorgeous. I want to do a little bit of a shift here because there's something that is I think this audience would be so interested in because you keep mentioning I channeled my books. And there's something that we talk about on this podcast quite frequently. I actually just released an episode about it, I believe last week, where we talk about sort of automatic writing, right? This idea of letting kind of the divine channel through you and allow the messages to flow through you rather than you thinking them and processing them and planning them through, right? Just like through stream of consciousness, let it flow. And to some degree, I would call that a level of claircognizance, right? You don't know how you know something, but it's just sort of like the way I describe it is almost as if you imagine like a funnel at the top of your head, and the divine source, spirit guides, whatever, they're dropping this information through you, and either it's all you can do that it'll like light your body up so much so that it will either come out your mouth and you have to say it and then you've probably forgotten what you said after you said it. Or if you allow it to go a little deeper, you can write it down. And it's almost as if the experience, and I know when I do this with handwriting, it feels like someone else is writing, right? And the pen gets faster and the words are sloppier, but and it feels almost like a different tone of voice. And somebody else is saying, you need to do this rather than I think this. And I'm curious what that experience was like for you, especially to the extent of writing and multiple books, but even just the entirety of a book in itself is quite a feat because I know for me, I can only do it for a couple of pages and just a journaling practice. And it's like, whoa, that was so intense. And so I'm curious how you cultivated that practice, what that looks like for you, and if the experience was similar or something different.
Yeah, my experience, like I resonate fully with everything that you're saying. And when I do like channeled writing for myself, it's exactly as you've just described. You this, you that, and the writing gets crazy and you're just like as fast as you can. But it's like when I am sitting to write the books, it's the same, and yet there's a refinement that allows me to have a more sustained energy with it. I think when we write messages, channel messages for ourselves, it's so exciting because because there's nothing more exciting than our own life, right? It's like, oh, what's gonna happen, you know? So like the pen goes like crazy and it's like so exciting. But I think when I sit, well, firstly, I sit on the computer and I type. And what I do is I just open my heart, breathe into my heart, and I allow the energy to flow through me differently. And I think when you type, you can kind of keep your heart really open. And if you're quite a good typer, you can kind of be barely there visually. Your eyes can be pretty half shut. And it allows like a poise to flow through that is a little less crazy than channeling for yourself. And because the message is for the collective, and I'm sure you feel this when you channel messages for the collective versus for yourself, it's like each sentence holds so much depth that after each sentence, you can sort of take a breath, go into your heart again, and then the next sentence comes. And that allows me to have like a really sustained energy. But it's also important to know that I've never sat down with the intention to write a book. I've only ever sat down to write. Like just like what you do, Jessica, like you're channeling messages for the collective. You channel one message and then the next day you channel another message and you do it at the computer. It's like, oh, hang on, that follows on from the previous. And then when I did that, I was like, is there a series here? And it was like, yes, keep going. And then I just keep going. And then maybe only like 5 or 6 chapters in, it's like you're writing a book. Because if I had the knowing I was going to write a whole book, I'd probably get way too excited, you know?
Right. And then get in your head and maybe overwhelmed, right? Our own
Yeah.
sins.
I I know that there's another book that's coming through very soon, and I feel like now that this would be my third channeled book, I feel like I know how to approach it now. I can kind of go in knowing, okay, this is a book. But that first one, I would have been way too excited. So yeah, that's how. It's just being in the heart, being soft, being open, and just like one channeled message at a time and see what it formulates into.
Well, Um, I'm so curious about your current experience of your intuitive abilities because you did mention sort of we spoke about sort of the bigger like if I'm making life decisions, what that sort of feels like. But you did also mention that you felt sort of psychic abilities grow and increase. And I'm curious if that's in relation to receiving messages for other people. Do you find yourself connecting to specific beings of light? Do you connect to the term or the idea of connecting to spirit guides? And in addition to that, do you have a practice or some sort of process that you go through in order to create that connection or have that conversation?
So I would say that the my psychic gifts, m- my hearing, my seeing, my knowing, and my feeling, they've really developed through my work as a healer. So I teach now intuitive rebirth, but I still do a lot of one-on-ones, particularly for my students. And it's the way I do one-on-ones that birthed intuitive rebirth into being. And what it is before I give someone a session, I close my eyes and I connect to that person's highest aspect, their God self or their highest self or whatever you want to call it. And I ask, how may I serve this person for their deepest healing and their greatest remembering in this moment? Show me what I need to do. Is there an energy that needs to release? Is there something about themselves that they need to remember? And before I even see someone, I write about them. And what I write is things that I'm shown, things that I feel, messages that I hear, and they're very subtle. They're very, very subtle. Before I do a session, I might feel like a deep sadness in my womb just for a fleeting moment. And I'll ask about that sadness and I'll be shown very subtle messages, subtle pictures, and I trust them so much. And I think it's important to know that just like I described in our life trust, in our greater decision making, it also applies in our service work, whether you're a healer or a channel or whatever you do. Because with my pure intention, whatever I receive, I just trust it as pure truth. So the subtlety I act upon. So I've taught myself how to do that before a session. And then within the session, what I do is I go so deeply into my heart and into the world of the realm of vibration and frequency that I can now see the energy. I can see what's there within the depths of the body. I can see entities. I can see trauma. I can see contraction. And once that's been felt, I can see aspects of self that are ready to be remembered. I can see shamanic elders. I can see ancient grandmothers. I can see interdimensional beings. And as I'm attuned to these energies within the person, I sing to those energies and I invite the person to speak the energies through. So, what happens is a remembering within the body of these different aspects of self. We remember the full multidimensional nature of self. So, in terms of spirit guides, there are an infinite army of guides that we can call upon. But just like the beautiful drop in that you did for us before we went live, you called upon all benevolent beings, the highest guides that come in the name of love. I do that knowing that we're all actually of the one, the pure spark of creation, the pure source of divinity. We're all of the one. So we can just channel source, our God self. We can just channel source, and that will be the perfect, most pure channeling that we can do. And yet, when we serve someone else, there's aspects of them that they are ready to remember. For example, they are ready to remember, ready to remember a multidimensional aspect of self, like these sort of interdimensional galactic beings that want to come through to bring healing. So in that moment, we can attune to that stream of consciousness, like a spectrum of consciousness, like a radio tune, and we can call forth that energy specifically. And it is still of the one, it is still of God, of the divine, which the divine is all stations, right? Source is all stations, all spectrums. But we can attune to individualized consciousness, the one station. And we can bring through that energy, and that energy can awaken within the person. And it's really just remembering an aspect of self. It is nothing outside of self. But by tuning to that dial of frequency, that person can remember their wholeness a little more deeply with a specific coding or frequency that's going to allow them to walk the path that they were intended to walk. So I never attach to one spirit guide, because I see many different guides. I see many different spectrums of consciousness. Like I have this giant protector being that sometimes he appears. He's like a giant. I'm very attuned to the spirits of the plant medicine realm. And I feel like there's this ancient grandmother who moves through me that I've met through ayahuasca, and now I meet her whenever she needs to work through me. There are ancestors and the angelic realm, the multidimensional realm, but I never get attached because when it's time to serve, whether we're channeling or healing, when we open to the highest healing, the deepest transformation, whatever is needed, and we just allow ourselves to be open, clear vessels to bring through that message and that energy, then we're going to be channels for whatever needs to come through. And it could be a specific radio station, a specific frequency, or it could just be the one.
Ah, this is so gorgeous and so beautiful. And I have to say, you just made something click and all the everything went off in my brain of like, there has been something that I have been personally feeling conflicted about lately in the channeling that I have done. And it's because I too have come to this place of getting, I don't know if the word is off put is probably the wrong word, but hesitant to answer the question when clients ask me, who is my guide? What's their name? And I too notice the attachment that sometimes we can get. And the reason I hesitate to even dive into that information and allow and create almost that deep relationship with one guide or another is because I too have been coming more and more to the realization that it is all under the same umbrella of the one. And it's I love, and the way that you express it just so eloquently and beautifully. There's no way I could have said it like that myself, so I really appreciate it. And it is so true that they're all aspects and elements, just different frequencies or radio stations or versions of the self, all connected under the umbrella of the one. And thank you for saying that and sharing that, because this is really, it's a terminology piece that I've been struggling with and how to express to others that it's almost as if it doesn't necessarily matter, right? Who is it that you're connecting to? I don't know that it really matters, or that there's a need to get so connected to one particular being or another, because they are all part of the divine. It's all underneath that same umbrella. So I really do appreciate you putting it that way. And I'm celebrating a little in my head, going, yes, that's the way to say it. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
you're so welcome. And it's like, it all comes back to that trust in the mystery, doesn't it? Because if we have that pure intention, like our intention is what directs energy. So when you have like this pure intention to serve from the depths of your heart, to serve another, and you open for the highest frequency of healing and transformation to come through, then you just trust the mystery. You trust the mystery, and it's like a little human mind that wants to know everything, that wants to attach, that wants to give it all reason. It's like wanting to understand the mystery by putting it into little boxes, which the mystery can never go into a box, you know?
Absolutely. It's so beautiful. And so I wanted to ask you, as I know we're getting close to running out of time here, but the you really, one of the things that you teach in intuitive rebirth, I assume, is a lot about healing the self and awakening the self and coming back to the self. And it's one thing to be a practitioner offering a service to one person, right? And working with someone one on one and being the one to offer, but there's something else to be said about how we can then take that on for ourselves. And that I truly believe that, I always say that my mission is to render myself useless to all of my clients, because they'll be so able to do the work that I do for themselves. And I definitely think that that's one of your missions as well. And so I would love if you could share with us how people can dive a little bit more into their own intuitive rebirth and what that can look like.
Yeah, I love that you want to render yourself useless. That's very beautiful and really, really sweet. And yeah, I can relate to that. So I would say how to bring this whole energy that I'm describing into your life. And the energy that I'm describing is where you feel and you allow and you open to deeper levels of trust and let the mystery bring you all the miracles of your highest potential, right? If you want to do that for yourself, step one is just stop resisting what is. Stop resisting what is. There's nothing about this moment that is broken. There is nothing about this moment that needs to be fixed. You don't need to become someone more. Everything about you is exactly as it needs to be, like right now. So, the greatest medicine we can ever give ourselves is unconditional love. And how can we give ourselves the medicine of unconditional love? When we perceive that something about us is not enough. And think about how we do this in very subtle ways that seem to be well-meaning. So for example, like perceiving that you need to be someone more. You need to have a bigger following on Instagram. You need to have something in your bio that tells how much you serve others and what your purpose is. You need to be someone more. You need to be more in your leadership, more powerful, more whole. You need to be more healed, more. It's like, what about if you just let all of that go? Because you're never going to become the person that holds everything that you want in this life. You're never going to become that person, all the while you're resisting the person that is right now. So whether you're doing a session on someone else and you're a healer, or you're learning to transform your own body, it's the same. You allow. So if you bring your hands to if that resonates what I'm saying, and you bring your hands to your body and you just ask the question, what aspect of me have I been fighting against? What aspect of the now, this now moment, have I been fighting against? And if you allow yourself to feel any contraction within your body, like where does that land? Do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in your belly? Do you feel it in your throat? And instead of trying to change that energy, can you breathe into it? And give it a sound. And just keep doing that. That's love. You're not trying to change the energy. You're just letting it be. You're not trying to change yourself. You're just letting it be. And that's how we love all our unloved aspects. And when you hold the vision of everything that your soul longs to experience, that's a valid vision, because your soul came here to experience that. So if you want to serve, you want to make an impact, you want to leave that job and do something different, fair enough. Like, your soul came here to experience more. So hold the vision when it excites you. When you're excited and lit up and inspired, hold the vision, dream about it, dance in it. Drive along the freeway, along the highway, and just like dance and play in that vision when you're excited. And then when you're wondering, how on earth am I going to make that vision happen? That's when you let everything go. Let everything go. Let go of your mind. Let go of all resistance, and just be with your beautiful body, and allow yourself to feel the fear, to feel the resistance to the now, and give it a sound. Because when we allow our mouth to be open and soft and we give things a sound, then we're allowing ourselves to not only feel that which we deemed unlovable, but express and give voice to the part of ourself that we've tried to tuck away into a corner. And when your channel is a little bit open like this, your central channel here, and you give your body a sound, and you just let the sound be whatever it is, like that. That's how you access really, really deep inner healing, because you're loving the depths of the unlovable within yourself. And then your body will just keep expanding and expanding and expanding. And you'll be essentially giving birth to yourself, more expansive, more whole. And the vision that your soul longs for, it's coming, it's inevitable. It's what you signed up to experience. So you don't need to worry about the how. Just focus on the now, and whatever needs to move will move. And then from that space of expansion, you'll be inspired. Inspired to write something, inspired to paint something, inspired to take a leap. And so, yeah, intuitive rebirth is the energy work process that I teach and guide, which is like in the session space. But this work is life. It is life. It's the feeling and allowing the contraction, and feeling it and feeling the contraction all the way to the natural expansion.
Wow. so gorgeous and so beautiful. And I hope that everybody who's listening goes, not, don't walk, run to go and find Rhiannon's work and go and sign up for Intuitive Rebirth. I mean, I could just sit in here and like bathe in this energy of yours all day long. You're just such a beautiful human. So thank you so much for sharing everything. I want to ask if, before we go, is there anything that you would love to share with our listeners that I didn't get a chance to ask you or that you wish I would have asked you that just needs to be heard and said?
Yeah, so what's coming through from my heart right now is that the collective timeline, has eased us into transformation. It's just eased us into it one step at a time, one step at a time. And it's going to start to feel different now because any shackles, like what we described at the start, even if they're tiny micro shackles, they are going to feel agonizing now. There is no time anymore for untruth within your being at any capacity. So, this could be an intense time for your own healing. It could feel like there's a lot of change that keeps happening in your life. It could feel like you try something and you give up, or you're constantly cycling through new experiences and so many things falling away. And what I want to share with anyone who's experiencing that is that the destruction and the chaos that you might be experiencing, it's just love being birthed through you. And on the other side of the chaos is harmony. And harmony is our natural state of existing. So just allow, and just keep feeling and loving everything because you're being held and it's all happening for you.
Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah, there's really something to be said about this particular time in the human timeline. I think everybody's feeling the difference. There's something in the air. I know I'm no astrologer and I know, but there's really something that is shifting in a huge way, especially this year, and people are feeling it. And the feeling of things that are not true, it's almost like you can't ignore it. It's almost like you are forced to let them go and they fall away whether you allow it or not, or whether you take action on it. Whereas I think to even 5 years ago, you could be aware of it and choose to resist, choose to keep burying your head in the sand, if you will. And I know I've been experiencing this a lot for myself and seeing it in all the people around me. It's like now you don't have a choice. It falls away. It just does.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Yes, there's nothing that we can do apart from let go. Otherwise, anything else is just self-created suffering. We just gotta let go.
Yeah. And I love one thing that you said. I think I'm gonna, this needs to be like a bumper sticker, but it's forget about the be in the now. I'm like, that's beautiful. I'm gonna put that into a pillow. Perfect statement. And it rhymes perfect.
And it rhymes. TM.
Exactly, exactly. Well,
Just kidding.
Shannon, this has been such an expansive conversation. I am so grateful to you and your energy. And I really hope that our listeners take some time to go and explore everything that you have to offer. And so I would love if you could just share with our listeners where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and all of the work that you do. And yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Yeah, had the best morning as well. Thank you so much for the beautiful conversation. Um, yeah, so if anyone listening is feeling resonance with what I've shared, you can come over to intuitiverebirth.com, and there is a super amazing practitioner training that's very accessible and affordable. And you can actually get 10% off if you use the coupon code community. So for listening to this episode, yeah, so just use the coupon code community. And in that training. It's going to teach you how to transform your own energy, but also how to hold like a really deep space for someone else, how to channel for them, how to take them into the depths of a very real and beautiful somatic healing, how to activate Kundalini and light language, entity clearing. It's deep, it's powerful, and it's really, really beautiful. So, the other thing is, if you want to check out one of my books, you can see them on the site as well, or just by searching my name, Rhiannon Hines, or you could come over to my Instagram, which is just my name, Rhiannon Hines, with an underscore underneath. And it would be beautiful to connect with all of you.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you here. And yeah, I'm so excited and hopefully we'll connect with you again.
Thanks so much, Jessica. It's been so beautiful. Thank you so much.